My name is Robert Hale. I'm 61 years old, and I live in a quiet house on the edge of Denver, the same house where I raised my daughter alone after her mother passed. For 30 years, I wore my father's old watch every single day. It wasn't valuable, not in dollars, but if someone told me that one day my own daughter would sell it for $200 without even asking me, I would have said they were talking about someone else's life, not mine. This is the story of how a watch worth nothing in gold and everything in memory brought my daughter face to face with a truth she never saw coming. I raised my daughter Emily on my own since she was 7. I worked 2 jobs. I never remarried, never complained. Emily grew up soft-spoken, smart, and, I thought, grateful. When she moved out at 24 to live with her boyfriend Marcus, I didn't stand in her way. I gave her space. I gave her time. Every Sunday, she still came for dinner. Every birthday, she still hugged me the same way she did as a little girl. I thought we were fine. I thought I knew my daughter. It started small. Emily stopped coming on Sundays. Her calls got shorter. When I asked about Marcus, she'd change the subject fast, like she didn't want me looking too closely. Then, one afternoon, I noticed my father's watch missing from my dresser. I searched everywhere. I told myself I'd misplaced it. I didn't want to believe what a small, quiet voice inside me was already suspecting. A friend from my old neighborhood called me one evening. He'd seen a listing on a local resale site, a vintage watch engraved on the back with initials, J.H. 1962. My father's initials. My father's watch. The seller's name on the account was Emily Hale. I sat in my kitchen for a long time that night staring at my phone, not angry yet, just hollow, confused, trying to find a version of this where it made sense. I called her. My voice was calm, but my hands weren't. I asked her gently if she knew anything about the watch. She went quiet for a moment too long, then she said the words that broke something in me. "Dad, I needed the rent money. It was just sitting in a drawer. I didn't think you'd even notice." I didn't yell. I didn't cry on the phone. I just said, "Okay, Emily," and hung up. That night, alone in the house I raised her in, I finally let myself feel it. Not just the loss of an old watch, the loss of trust. The quiet realization that my daughter had looked at the last piece of my father I had left and decided it was worth less than a month's rent. The next morning I drove to the pawn shop listed in the ad. The owner, an old man named Walter, recognized me the moment I described the watch. "Funny thing," Walter said. "Buyer already picked it up. But before he did, he asked me to open the back casing, said watches like that sometimes hide something." My chest went tight. I had forgotten. 30 years ago, before he passed, my father had shown me a tiny fold of paper tucked behind the watch's back plate, a savings bond he'd never cashed, made out in my name, worth almost nothing then, but grown quietly for decades. Emily had sold it without ever knowing what she'd given away. I didn't want to punish Emily out of anger. I wanted her to understand, clearly and permanently, what she had thrown away without asking a single question first. I tracked down the buyer, a young collector named David, through Walter. I explained everything honestly. David, to his credit, agreed to let me buy the watch back at a fair price, bond and all. But I didn't tell Emily any of this, not yet. I invited Emily to dinner, the first Sunday dinner in almost 2 months. She came, nervous, clearly expecting an argument. Instead, I set 2 things on the table in front of her, the watch and a folded piece of paper. I didn't say a word. I just watched her face as she opened it and read the bond's value, now worth far more than the $200 she'd sold it for. There was no crowd, no courtroom, no dramatic confrontation, just a father and daughter and a truth finally sitting between them on a kitchen table. "You sold this for $200, I said quietly. "Your grandfather left you almost $8,000, hidden inside it. He wanted it to go to you one day, not because you asked for it, because he trusted you to take care of it." Emily didn't say anything for a long time. Then she started crying, not because she'd lost money, but because she understood, finally, what she'd actually done. I gave her the bond anyway, not because she earned it back, but because that's what her grandfather wanted, and because anger was never going to fix what trust had broken. Emily calls every Sunday now, not out of guilt, out of choice. If there's one thing this taught me, it's this. Sometimes the things that look the smallest to us are carrying the most weight for someone else. Before you let go of something that isn't only yours, ask first, You might be holding more than you know.